Well, looky here. You are listening to someone who is bold, authentic, diverse, unpredictable. Baby, I am unapologetically Ramon, and you have entered my zone, the QB zone, baby. Hello, somebody.
Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Ramon Marquise, and just had to come to you guys just to do a little housekeeping. Other than being a podcast host, I am an author, and I want you guys to bless yourself with one or all, if you want to, of my books. My books are available on Amazon.com, Kindle. You can also get them on iBooks, or you can go to my website, RamonMarquiseOfficial.com. That's RamonMarquisOfficial.com. My first book is entitled District 69, the Crimson Edition. We have District 69, the Color Haven. My third book, District 69, the Greek Chronicles, and those are a collection of short stories. They are not all my stories, because I ain't finna give y'all all my business, but it is a collection of my stories and those of others. My next book is called A Poetic Exhale. It's my first poetry book and my first book to go number one in its category. And then my fifth book, which is my newest book, it is called Icebox, Rebound, and Recover. So go ahead and treat yourself or a loved one or someone you know to any or all of my books. Once again, you can get them on Amazon.com, Kindle, iBooks, or my website, RamonMarquiseOfficial.com.
Rock Legion.
On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by the intimate partner in the United States. During 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million women and men. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner contact sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking with impacts such as injury, fearfulness, post-traumatic stress disorder, use of victim services, contraction of sexual transmitted diseases. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have been victims of severe physical violence, such as beating, burning, or strangling. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide. So, on today's episode, we have a very important episode. I feel like it's important because it's great when people want to share their stories, share their stories as a part of either their healing or to benefit others. So today's episode, I don't take the subject or the opportunity lightly with my special guest. This topic today is going to be surviving domestic violence. And we do have with us back again the wonderful CEO of Mesh Dollhouse, Tameshia Sexton. What's going on, lady?
Hey, how you
Yes,
doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. First of all, I'm humble and grateful for you to be willing to share your story on this very, very serious topic. I don't, like I said in the intro, I don't take it lightly. So I appreciate you being willing to be open about this subject matter.
Of course.
So, domestic violence. Let's talk about where it started for you. Um, Let me back up. Before we go on to that, did you ever think that you would ever be in a domestic violence situation? When you were growing up and you was working in your previous industry, did you ever think that you would be a victim of domestic violence?
I didn't think I would be a victim of domestic violence, but I knew statistics said that I would.
And talk about that for a little bit. I think that's good to touch on that subject. Talk about those statistics and what do you mean by that? Elaborate a little bit.
Okay. So my first time witnessing, experiencing, or knowing anything of domestic violence was when I was 11 years old. My mother was a victim of domestic violence. My father and my mother used to, experience as far as physical abuse, when my father was the aggressor. And so my first time seeing my mother being struck by my father was when I was 11 years old. That's when my world of life and experience it started. Fortunately, my father changed. Yeah, I'm not going to say that people don't change. My father changed. And so my mother and father, I'm 37. My mother and father have been together over 45 years and are still together. And that life of what I knew at 11 years old is no longer, is no longer the same now. But it was a journey. And so my experience started at a young age. And although I ran from it, when you experience stuff, it's like, oh, I ain't gonna never be with no man like my daddy. I had so much animosity towards him because of what was going on between him and my parents that it was like, oh, I would never be with somebody that's like my daddy. And so although you still call yourself running from it, you ran right into it. You attracted what you said you didn't want. And so, like I said, I knew statistics wise, and based on, what statistics say, if you go through domestic violence, you experience domestic violence, 9 times out of 10, the same thing is as far as sexual abuse, it say that the pattern may repeat itself. So I found myself reliving that pattern at 21 years old. The day I graduated college, I met my first abuser.
Wow. And for you, did it start to be mental or verbal and smoothly, not smoothly, so take that back, but slowly transition into physical, or did it just outright was physical abuse?
So I've been involved in 2 domestic violence relationships, and we'll talk about patterns because and accountability. Because like I said, if you are not taking accountability, if you don't know how to be accountable for your own actions, what ends up happening is you just carry on into the next relationship, kind of carrying the same thing, carrying the same hurt, carrying the same baggage. And so I went from one relationship to the next and was just reliving what I just had left. So my first relationship was flat out straight to physical abuse. It was no lead up to it. It was no signs to it. It just flat out, bam, here it go. And now I'm in this 2-year spiral of dealing with physical abuse. And then the second relationship, which I ended up being married for 7 years, it was physical, but it was more emotional. And again, when we get more into the interview, I'll be able to talk about, like I said, carrying on that weight from one to the other and how it led to me being in the second relationship. And that one was more so emotional abuse, even though I did have some experience of physical abuse with him.
When you were going through this, were there people who knew, or were you suffering in silence?
So I'm gonna tell you, and I ain't never probably said this on air. My first relationship, the first time he struck me, we was in the car coming from a movie theater. And I can't now, it's because it's been over 10 years. I can't even recall what the conversation was or what I was saying, but whatever it was, he was in the passenger seat and he reached over and swung on me, hit me straight in the face, bam. And I was in shock because nothing had ever happened up until that point. No physical, no nothing, no sign of that he was this type of person. So when he hit me, I'm driving, but now I'm in shock, but I'm also in fear because I don't know what else is next.
Right.
And I called, and again, this is about healing because see, we don't heal. We jump from one relationship to the next, and we don't allow ourselves time to heal. What I was going through at 21 years old, I had been with my high school and college boyfriend all those years, and then he broke up with me my senior year of college.
Oh, wow.
And he broke up with me. That was like 2 months before I graduated. So then when I graduated, the night of my graduation is when I met my first abuser. So I was looking for love in all the wrong places. I was still running and hurt from it. So now I'm vulnerable. I'm looking for somebody to just love me. And now I'm ended up in the hands of this man. And so 1, I wasn't healed from one previous relationship. And then 2, I'm still young. I'm vulnerable. I'm insecure. I don't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, so now I'm dealing with a whole new life, really. So when I got with him, like I say, he struck me and I couldn't fathom it. The first person I called was my ex. And rather than assist, help, or give encouraging words or whatever it was, he was like, oh, that's what you like, that's what you went to, and this and this and that, and it just made me feel like I couldn't talk to nobody. So from that forward, I didn't express nothing to nobody, including my family. Now, did it get to a point, because I was with him for 2 years, did it get to a point where my family started realizing stuff? Yeah, because I would come around with glasses on and got, red blood clots in my eye, and they trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm lying saying, oh, I ran into the wall. Or I'm limping when I come over there, and they trying to figure out why I'm limping, but they don't know because he just threw me out the car. You know what I'm saying? But they see something ain't right.
Right, right.
I'm not saying it either. And then the thing about going through domestic violence as a victim, see, I'm a survivor now. So when I talk about it, I can talk about it differently. But when I was in it, I would take up for him. So it ain't too many people that want to say something to you about it because they're afraid that you're going to snap at them.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So people knew and could see that something wasn't right. This ain't Mesh. But they wasn't necessarily going to say anything because they don't know where I was going to go at with it. So I started suffering in silence because I wasn't talking to nobody, and nobody was going to be bold enough to say, I don't care what you got to say, girl, you know, A, B, and C. Here it is. So I suffered in silence dealing with that relationship until I got to that end point of I'm finna get out of this. I don't want to be here no more.
So what was that moment that made you get the courage or allowed you to get the courage to leave that first relationship?
You know what's crazy? But I tell this story, and people like, that's all it was? Because like, damn, it wasn't the hitting, it wasn't the, that made it. What happened, I got pregnant in that relationship. And I got my baby footprint right there. I got pregnant. That was in 2007. And I had asked God, I said, if you could just get me out of this relationship, I promise I'm not going to be with him. I'm going to leave. Like, just get me out of this relationship. And I went to the doctor and they ain't hear no heartbeat. I was about 6 months pregnant and they didn't hear no heartbeat. And I didn't know how to feel. Should I be happy or should I be sad? But I didn't feel no type of way because I know I didn't want to be with him. And I really, honestly, I didn't want to have no baby with him because I didn't want to be attached to him for nothing. Right. So when God, however he had to see it be fit, he opened up the door. I was like, let's go. And once I had that happen and I felt like I didn't have a tie to him in a certain sense, it took one thing. He called me a cunt. And I promise you, I said, when I tell people, they like, so damn, like you going through the fighting and this and this and that, like that. And I said, no, you know why? I said, because I was too afraid. I knew what he was capable of, and I'd rather deal with what I know than to leave and be in fear of what he may do. So I can deal with the fighting, but the word cunt to me is such a disgraceful word, and I felt like that showed me just how low he really thought. Right. And that was all it took. I got my shit, went home and was like, oh no, I'm not with this. And whether I was in fear or not, I snuck my ass out the house. I was like, I'm gone. I can't live like this no more. But it was that one word. It showed me the truth of, girl, no matter how many times you finna try to convince yourself that he love you, this is how you really feel. And it was enough for me to say, I'm done. I don't want this no more.
And I feel like that was probably God's way of answering your prayer too, because he knew how words or just how that enlightenment of how he looked at you was going to be what you needed to leave. I think, oh wow. Was he home when you left?
He was asleep.
He was asleep. Okay.
And that's another thing I talk about with people. In addiction, because he was doing drugs and stuff like that. So now you ain't only dealing with the domestic violence, you're dealing with whatever they habits is.
Whole different demon.
You know what I'm saying? So this is a whole different ball game. So he was dealing with his habits and so forth. And I snuck out the bed and rolled on over and snuck out and went and got in my car and I left and I went to my parents' house. This was when the first time two things happened that night. This was the first time that I actually told and said something to my parents, like this is what's going on, because he ended up coming to the house, like, trying to get him over. And so this my parents and my father, they really understand now, full circle, what's going on. They ain't trying to guess and think about it. They know something is up. So that was the first time my parents realized it, like from me myself. And the second thing was, my daddy, if you think I'm real deal like that, my daddy, I'm every split image of him. Okay. My daddy don't cut no corners. He straight hit a shooter like type of person. Right. He ready to go handle business.
Well, of course.
So the police come to the house. And I heard this officer say, and I never forget it. Like I never forget, and that's why I'm probably so headstrong when it comes to my business, my brand, and how I work with women too. He told my daddy flat out. He say, "What you finna go to jail for? What you finna go do something for that man for? Because 9 times out of 10, she ain't gonna do nothing but go back to him." And from that, it hit. It put something, because he said it right in front of me, like I wasn't standing there.
Mm-hmm.
It did something to me. Like, okay, bitch, I'm gonna show you. Cause no, I'm not going back.
Right.
And I'm not gonna put my father in a position of losing his life or going to jail or nothing else or whatever you trying to say. And again, it just kind of took me back to what they think statistics, you know, what the statistics say and so forth. I was like, no, I'm not gonna go back. But that shifted something in me to want different from what I had currently had. But like
Absolutely.
I said, not healing, I found myself still back in the same cycle.
So talking about not healing, going back in the same cycle, how much time went by when that relationship ended to your next relationship?
A year.
A year. Okay. And were there things that you thought this person was different? Did you notice any similarities? What made you get into that relationship?
It was I gotta probably be honest about it because I don't think that I feel like people can help to shift other people.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wasn't necessarily healed, because
Okay.
I wasn't where I needed to be at, I do
Right.
feel like I projected certain things onto him that helped to create this monster that I was now, you know, dealing with. Because when I
Right.
initially got with him in my relationship, I didn't go through any of that. I wasn't going through any domestic violence, no emotional abuse, nothing of that nature. Now, was he a cheater and a liar? Yes.
Okay.
I dealt with that early on in the relationship, and I should have known better and seen the red flag before I even married him. But in a sense of abuse, I had never got that from him. So see, what I
Okay.
carried on into the relationship was because I had been physically abused in my mind. Oh, ain't nobody else gonna ever put their hands on me again. Ain't nobody gonna touch me. So if I thought he was even getting loud, if I thought he was, you know what I'm saying, trying to come at me in some type of way, I would put my hands on him before he put his hands on me.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like I started becoming the aggressor because I'm trying to protect myself in a sense and thinking like, you know what I'm saying, everybody is going to attack me. So
Mm-hmm.
that in itself helped to create some other things. And then now when you introduce that into play, you got now the emotional abuse started, and like I said, we and him had some tussling moments, but like in the 7 years, like probably 2 or 3 times. But
Okay.
it was the emotional abuse that started kicking in. It was the emotional abuse and the down talking and the you ugly and you fat and you know it was all of those things that started accumulating and then emotionally started draining me. So it was just like not taking taking from the previous relationship, not allowing myself time to heal. And see us, you know, I'm talking for us as the women. We think healing means, oh, because I'm going out to the club, because I'm going in, you know, doing my thing and messing with who I want to mess with and doing that. But you're not taking real time for self. I ain't do no
Correct.
self-reflecting in that year. I didn't go back and look at what I had been through and how I could have did it different. No, I was just
Right.
parlaying, doing my own
Right.
little thing and talking about, oh yeah, I'm healed now. And I'm ready for a new relationship when in actuality, I wasn't.
Right. And I think what's amazing, what stands out to me is that just looking at timing, it reminds me that you never know what a person's going through. During parts of that, me and you worked together.
Yep.
And the Tameshia that I looked forward to seeing every time I came to the office, that personality that you could have never told me that you were going through that. And I was in my, I was still learning people in life and experiences, and that's what really started me to realize you never know people going through. People are smiling, people giving you this amazing personality, but baby, when they go home, you have no idea the hell
No,
they go through. And so it also made me look at myself because I said, wait a minute, this is how people think about me. You don't have no idea trauma and pain and things I've gone through. Because I know for me, whenever I would come around people, I would give them this personality that they were used to. Because for me, it was distraction. It was my scapegoat from dealing with what I'm going through. But I wasn't healing. I wasn't working through. I wasn't properly dealing with what I was going through. And so I would never forget when I don't know if it was a social media post, I don't know what it was, but you were open and honest about going through that. I'm like, wait, what? So I'm grateful to God that He brought you out of that. How long were you in your marriage? When
7 years.
10 years?
I was married for 7 years.
Married for 7. So how many years were you in a relationship when the mental abuse started or the verbal abuse started?
I would say probably about the year mark, like right after the honeymoon period, probably about a year.
The first time that it was physical, what did it do to you? What was that moment like? Let me rephrase the question. What was that moment like? And I'm sure you was in a state of shock probably, but take us back to the first time it was physical and what was that moment like for you?
So, like I said, because I'm coming from one relationship to the next, and it was a very big difference in regards to how I felt. So, in that first relationship, I was in fear. I was afraid of him. I was scared for my life. I was scared that if I left him, he would do more harm to me if I left. The mindset that I had going into the second relationship wasn't like that. Cause see, I don't fear him at all. I was willing to whoop his ass, fight him, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
my mindset was totally different. So even when
Right.
we had those moments of physical abuse, I was never in fear of in my second relationship, my marriage. I was never in fear of him. It was just the emotional abuse that became very triggering and overwhelming for me with the emotional abuse. Because see, I had confidence. I had always had confidence, but then when you start having somebody tearing down your confidence,
Yeah.
that's what I was dealing with. So the first time that me and him had a physical altercation, he choked me and I blacked out. He was afraid because he didn't, like I said, he had never shown any signs of anything of that nature. So he was
Right.
afraid, like in fear, like he thinking like, did he kill me type of vibe? Because I was blacked out for a little minute. But even once I had like woke up, I'm ready to fight. Get what I'm saying?
Right.
My mindset was
Right.
different. I'm ready to whoop your ass, nigga. We finna have a full blown, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm ready to fight now. And compared to the other one, I will fold. And I was afraid to, take up for myself. So the mindset had done shifted a little bit because I was more in protection mode when I went into my marriage. But like I said, and with that, I didn't have as many physical incidents compared to my first relationship. My first relationship was just flat out, just physical all the time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think if we don't, that healing process, man, is very, very important. You got to take time for self. You got to take time to heal. You got to take time to understand how you got the way you act, and then also understand where you're trying to go at. And I didn't do none of that. So I just found myself in a cycle, repeating the process. Right. Attracting who I said I didn't want. You know what I'm saying? Like just going through the same little steps.
The first one, you kept it to yourself as far as what you were going through. Were family or friends or anyone aware during the second time, the second individual?
So, like I said, when we don't take accountability, and one of my things that I felt that I didn't do as far as my, myself and accountability is, when it's time. You know when this relationship is done. You know damn well that you can't help him no more than he can help you, but then we still choose to stay. And a lot of times it be, the kids, I'm staying for my kids. And that was my thing. My mom and daddy been together over 30 years. How I'm gonna look if I go get a divorce? And so you thinking all of these things. So you stand for the wrong reasons, and all you really doing is continually building up the tension, the stress, the disloyalty, the disrespect, and all. You just steady building piles of, of things on top of those things already, and that's what I was doing. So I knew well before I got married, and we got married after 8 months of being together. I knew well before then that he was not the one for me. But why did I still stay in that relationship? And I'm pregnant. I got kids, so it's like you don't want to fail.
Right.
Not realizing that you're really failing yourself if you decide to stay in this situation because it's no benefit to you or to him. Y'all are only hurting each other and not necessarily helping each other. Y'all not being a helpmate to each other. You're hurting each other. So once I kind of made sense of it, I was already in it. So it's like I'm gonna stay here because my kids, and I don't want to be a single parent. I was young, 23, 24. Now I got 2 kids. I ain't trying to be no single parent. So it was just a difference in my mindset when I was dealing with both of the situations. And like I said, one of them I was more of a victim, and the other I had also became the aggressor. So it was a lot different in that situation. But I knew for a fact that I wasn't supposed to be with him as long as I did, and because I stayed, that only helped to build more tension between him and my family, him and my friends. My relationships were deteriorating over the course of time. And my family knew early on with him. Why? Because it got physical between my family. Him and my brother had done fought before. Him and my sister, me and my sister, my brother done jumped on him before. Because remember, I told you, I'm not afraid of him. I fight you. It's whatever. So if I feel like you doing something out the way, I don't have no problem with expressing myself this go around. You know what I'm saying? And so my family had done got to the point of involvement where they had also gotten physical with him too over the course of years, which you can only imagine. Like I said, if I'm now in a situation where when I make a decision that I want to leave you, and your thought process is I'm finna attack her father, it's because out of all these 7 years, you ain't never acted on those feelings. And now when I tell you I'm leave you and I'm gone, I feel like his thought process was, well, what else I got shit? What else I'm finna lose? I can do what I've been wanting to do. I can bend them retaliated. Cause he's like I said, we done had all this tension over these years. So you gotta know when to leave. And when you know it, you know what I'm saying, act on it. Don't take you, your family, your kids, and everybody else through this long, drawn out period for no reason.
So let's talk about patterns. What patterns can you, first of all, what were there any that you ignored? What were some patterns that you saw? And what are some patterns that women or men in your situation should pay attention to?
With the domestic violence itself, I can't necessarily say I seen a pattern like leading up to it, but once I was in it, now you see, oh, this how this person, is or can become more of. And it's like you either accept the pattern and you're gonna allow them to keep doing exactly what they're doing, and 9 times out of 10, they're gonna do it more because they know that you don't allow them to do it. So they're gonna just keep going. And so once I realized that I didn't have a backbone and I didn't say no, I seen the more as far as the advantage that they took. So if I let you slide and you cheat and you lie and I still stay, guess what? You're just gonna keep cheating and you're gonna keep lying. If there's no change in behavior, not just us yelling, screaming, fuss time about what I don't want you to do, but if there's no change in behavior, you're just gonna keep doing the same thing. If I let you hit me and I don't do anything as far as a reaction to it or anything else, you're just gonna keep doing what it is that you're doing because I have now allowed you to believe that that's what I'm willing to accept. And so once I'm gonna go back to the first relationship. If I would have left the first time when he hit me when I was in the car, I would have never went through nothing else. I feel like, you know what I'm saying, in that situation. But I feel like once he knew that, oh, she ain't gonna do nothing and she gonna still stay, it only got worse. It increased more and more and more and got more and more violent. He got more and more clever on how he can, do certain things. It just got worse. It never got better. So I always tell people, if you see red flags, if you see certain things, if you feel patterns or anything, it's only going to get worse if you don't put a stop to it. Don't think it's going to get better. Like, oh no, he's going to change tomorrow. Because like I said, I'm not saying that people don't change. My father changed. But what I'm saying is, don't be stupid. Don't be staying with this hope of, oh, he going to change and this and that. And then you are basically helping to kill yourself in a sense. So I had to get to that point of realization and seeing that he gonna do exactly what I'm allowing him to do, and he gonna keep doing it until I put a stop to it.
Right. Well, and you made a very, very good point, because they do something, and if they don't experience consequence for their bad behavior, they're gonna think you're willing to allow it. And a lot of times you hear people say, "You teach somebody how to love you," and then also people say that a man will only do, or a person will only do what you allow them to do. It's very important to nip somebody, nip it in the bud. I remember recently listening to an interview with Prince Harry about his new book, and he made this statement where there was one point early in their relationship with Megan where whatever disagreement was going on, he spoke to her in a very authoritative way, for lack of better words. And she shut it down right there. Like, listen, I would never tolerate being spoken to that way. And that's educated him on, okay, wait a minute, this is how I need to treat this person. This is not
Right.
what the is not going to allow. And so I think that's awesome that you pointed that out, because it is very important. And they get into these relationships and they think, oh, he'll change. But what do you think he's going to change? Because once again, he's never had to deal with the consequence of bad behavior, or the female, because sometimes,
Mhm.
the victim. What would you say, looking at where you're at now, what would you say to the Tameshia then, the second relationship? What would you say to that young lady then?
Know your worth. Know what it is that you have to offer, as far as even what I can bring to a relationship, but also knowing that I'm not perfect, so I can too have some change in my own behavior and being accountable for my own actions. Because like I said, I'm not here to say, oh well, he all wrong, because I had my wrongdoings too. You know what I'm saying? So taking accountability for just me, you know what I'm saying, and not doing the whole blame thing. I had to learn that, how they say when you point the fingers, you got fingers pointing right back at you. Worry about self and take accountability on what I could do differently, so that when I get into my next relationship, I'm not carrying on these same behaviors and doing these same things. And to be very much so honest, we don't pay attention to it, but there's a lot of things that we carry over into
Right.
these next relationships, whether they friendships, sexual relationships, whatever it is, we carry on baggage. And we just keep reliving what we done been through. So once I took a complete stop and kind of detached from that and did some real self-reflection, accountability on what I can be doing differently, even when I got into my next relationship, it was totally different. My mindset, how I move, how I approach things, learning to communicate. That was one of the biggest things. Like I talk to my husband, I say, my mom and daddy been together 35, 40 some years. But ain't nobody never sit down and say, this is what you should expect in a marriage. This is what what you should be looking for. This is how a man should treat you. Now, again, my parents are still together.
Right.
Never had these kind of conversations. And I was like, and that's what I think was missing and is missing in our homes, especially with the ones who got parents who are still alive and who have been together. Them conversations are important, because I didn't have that. So it's like, how do you go into a relationship and thinking that you're gonna succeed and be successful in this relationship when you never was actually given the tools on what it mean to be a wife, on what it mean to be a husband, and what to accept and what not to accept. So you just really accepting whatever, and you learning as you go. And that's what I had been doing. So I had to take that time, and going back to the self-development part of it, getting me right, getting myself together, and teaching myself what I didn't learn from my parents, or teaching myself what I didn't see growing up, and learning how to properly communicate. A lot of us don't know how to properly communicate
at all. Yeah.
So yeah,
When you started the healing process, as you stated, you didn't do the proper healing. You went from the first into the second one, and like you said, when you don't do the healing, you carry it over. That keeps proving time and time again that that's a correct statement. Unfortunately, a lot of us do that. When you decide to heal and get help for in your journey, what did that look like for you? Did you do therapy? What are some things that you did to heal from this?
So the first time I went through the domestic violence, I wasn't ready. The thing about change is you got to be ready to change. You got to be ready to take action. You got to be ready to be coachable. You got to be ready to do all these different things. I wasn't ready. So I went to therapy. We sat down, and I'm thinking, my mind, she gonna ask me questions about the situation, but she go to asking me questions about my childhood. And see, I ain't trying to get into that right there. I don't want to talk about my daddy. I don't want to talk about that. So I went to one session, I left and never returned. And then here I go. Now, a year later, I'm in the same situation. I'm in the same boat.
Right.
So obviously, something was missing, right? So once I got out of this situation in my second relationship, which I was married, I was like, no, Tameshia, you need to go to therapy. You need to go and sit through this, get through it. If you got to cry, whatever, however, you need to get through it. So I went to trauma therapy. Is the therapy that I went through, and It was very, very, very beneficial. In that form of therapy with trauma victims, they don't do a lot of talking. You do the talking. So it required me to open up about my journey, the story, what happened. And what would happen is I would go to my session every week. I would come out of there crying every week. But the way it would happen would be because you doing all the talking. So she'll ask me a question and she'll say, like tell the story. Like this the question, I tell the story. I would tell the story. She would go right back to the beginning and ask me the same question and then tell me to repeat the story again. And I spent a whole hour doing that, repeating this story every time she asked me. I'm like, well, why am I doing this? And it wasn't until after the very first or second time that I did it that I realized every time that I was repeating that story, I was adding in some more stuff, taking out some stuff. I was realizing, wait, I forgot about this. Wait, I did this, but I forgot. I didn't say that the last time. And it made me taking accountability for the things that when we project the story, 9 times out of 10, we talking about the other person. We trying to project what they necessarily talk about what you doing. So me repeating it over and over and over and over again, I started plugging in all these different missing components that I had never paid attention to. And that's what really made me start taking accountability for my own actions. Because it was like, nah, Tameshia, you was a little jacked up too. You was a little toxic too, ma'am. Like, hold on. So, you know what I'm saying? It made me take accountability. And I really, really, like real life, enjoyed going to therapy because had I not, I don't know that I necessarily would be able to be as confident as I am now or even as transparent as I am now.
How long were you in therapy?
Roughly about 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
Okay. And what would you say was the rose and thorn of going through therapy?
Being the accountability part, being honest enough to say, Tameshia, yeah, you messed up on that part. Yep, you could have did that a little different. Yep, you acted out on that one. You the one who started that argument and that fight. You know what I'm saying? So it was the accountability part because we don't like to be accountable. You don't want to be wrong in a situation. You know what I'm saying? We always looking for somebody else to blame. So when you have to get to a point of being honest with yourself enough to tell yourself when you messed up, it can sometimes be a challenge. And so that initial part of it was a challenge for me because I didn't want to take accountability. I still wanted to point the finger.
When you were going through the domestic violence, more so specifically the second time, did it affect you as a parent in any way?
Yeah, it crippled me as a parent. So even now, like today, I'm going on 6 years from being with him. But what it ended up doing was because now not only am I going through a traumatic experience, but my kids are going through a traumatic experience. They're now going through separation from another parent. He's in jail serving a 9-year sentence for the attempted murder of my father. So now I'm a single parent. You know what I'm saying? So I have to now, because I'm not in fear of him, but because of the situation and what happened, I return back home. I go to live with my parents for almost 2 years after everything happened. This is a big adjustment for my kids because where you're used to us having our own place, your own room, and this and that. Now we at my parents' house in one room. So all these things was an adjustment. And so it crippled me as a parent because I was trying to, because I knew they had been through something traumatic, it was almost like trying to be soft and not pushing so hard. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't want to scream and beat my kids because you're thinking about all these other things at play. So it made me a softer parent in a sense. And I was very passive. And it took a while, and it's still taking a while, but every day is a stride, you know what I'm saying, that I work towards. And learning, again, the whole communication thing, learning to communicate. Even with your kids, you got to learn to communicate. And if they have experienced some traumatic things and they experienced it with you, it's very different how they communicate and how they feel and all these different things, because they little humans too. So I had to learn, I'm still learning to navigate so that I can get to the point of being like that full authoritative parent. Like right now, I ain't all the way there because I'm still kind of passive. I'm still watching out for their feelings, and all that kind of stuff. And so it took some time, but it definitely changed how I was parenting, because before that happened, we had a whole different type of structure going on. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think that's dope that you mentioned that, though. I think that's awesome that you're parenting that way because you want to be conscious and cognizant of their feelings and where they're at. A lot of parents probably wouldn't think to pay attention to that. So I definitely think that that's awesome. When you think about all the things that you learn about yourself, what are some of the three things that you're the most proud of? When you see how you've overcame and you're surviving, what are some of the three things that you love most about yourself?
So today, into like today's time, now I'll just be like being raw, uncut, and being very authentic. It took me a while to get here. It took me a very long time. It was many days that I was on Instagram and I was smiling and looking cute. And like you said, coming to work every day and none of y'all knew what was going on. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew that I had been in jail dealing with my ex-husband. Nobody knew that I had, experienced all these things as far as him cheating and infidelity. And now my kids got a sibling. Nobody knew these things. So it was like holding on to all this baggage just within me, like just within myself. And I had to get to a point where I could just be honest and I ain't care about what nobody had to say. It was just like, listen, this is my story, this is the journey, this is what I had to do and go through to get here. And I'm gonna share it with you. You're gonna either like it or you don't. And it's like, if you rock with me, you rock with me. If you don't, you don't. And so it took some time for me to come out of that shell fully, like to really come out. I was only like when I started Mesh Dollhouse, only my dolls and my company would know the full extent of my story, but nobody outside of them. And then gradually, God put me in position in different places around different people that helped to push that out of me. And one day, I promise you, I just woke up and was like, man, fuck this. Like, I'm going to be me. You gonna like it or you don't. You say what I want to say. It is what it is. And
you're going to be blessed. You're going to be blessed regardless.
Yeah.
So when you look at the relationship now, what are some things that you've learned that you got in your toolbox to help this one be successful?
Ooh, Chad. My three things: communication, learning to hear the other person. We be so used to doing all the talking and wanting to have, like I say, have all the answers that we don't necessarily hear our partners. They be crying too for things, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes us as women, we only think our feelings matter. We don't realize, your mate have feelings too. He's a man, but he got feelings too. But if you don't allow him the space to be vulnerable, he not gonna share that with you. So it was like I had to learn, and I didn't learn it right going into my relationship. I learned it, progressing over the years and steady growing within myself about the communication. So that is something that is an everyday effort. And me and him talk about this all the time. It's an everyday effort that we put in to make sure that we communicate and know how each other feel. Are you having a good day? Are you having a bad day? Do you want to sit down and talk about it? Did I do something that affected you today? We ask these questions because
that's awesome.
You just kind of go along with the flow and just assume that your partner is happy with you. And they may not be, you know what I'm saying? So we made it an intentional decision to, make sure that we're communicating so that we know what each other is thinking and feeling, whether it's professionally or personally. So I say communication, financial. So my biggest thing was I was always used to being the breadwinner. Okay. I was dealing with little scrubs, you know what I'm saying? They weren't trying to work, they weren't trying to get no job. And I wasn't putting no boundaries or no, like putting my foot down to nothing either. So I'm the one doing all the work. So when I came into my my new relationship, that was one of the very first things we talked about. And it was very different because, you're coming from your own background and differences, and I'm coming from a different. So when I'm talking about finances, he looking kind of like, what you mean? You want to know what's in my bank account. I know what's in your bank account. Or you, what you mean? Like, this and that. And it took time for us to gradually get there, you know what I'm saying? But I told him, I say, people be worried about love when they get into relationships. And I think because I had went through the domestic violence stuff, love wasn't on my mind. I told him flat out, I have to learn to love you because I'm gonna teach you to love me the way that I want to be loved. I'm gonna teach you how to respect me. I'm gonna teach you what, I'm gonna show you these things over the course of time while we together. So love, I didn't walk into this relationship thinking, oh, I'm gonna be in love and I love him. No, I was thinking on like from a business standpoint, almost in a sense. Financially, are we going to be able to help each other to another level.
Right.
Financially, how are we going to be able to pull this together and be able to grow? And then we'll love to learn. We're going to love each other, you know, throughout the process. So finances was a big thing that me and him talk about. Like this was just yesterday. We going through everything, and you know what I'm saying? Like, this is my style, and I'm the money person over here. So it's like, okay, this what you need. Boom, here go the money. Line it up, budgets, and I never did that when I was married. I never budgeted. None of that. We, you know what I'm saying? It was just, I was the breadwinner. I had to pay all the bills anyway, so you don't even know what the hell going on over here. Like, you know what I'm saying?
No, I feel you. I feel you.
Right. So finances was a very big thing. A very big thing that I went into in this relationship, and you know, being very open and transparent. Like, me and him have bank accounts together. I never had bank accounts with them. I don't trust y'all. Like, you know what I'm saying? We fighting and all this time. So I don't trust you to have no bank account. So, you know, we, you know, learning to have a personal account together, and then we have our separate accounts, you know what I'm saying, as far as like what we save up on our own, knowing that the money coming from bills, the money that's in this account, this is our money. This ain't no, oh, well, you only put 200 or you only put 1,000. No, this is our money. We pay our bills. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
That was definitely a big one that I think that made a big difference from my previous relationships to now. And I would say the third one would probably be parenting styles, because I'm coming from a situation where I was married. My children are no longer, you know, not dealing with their father, but he's in jail. They have communication with him, you know, as far as emails and so forth. But now they have someone else who's in their life as a father figure, and then he has a daughter. So now I have an older daughter who I'm also a mother figure to, and so not only learning to co-parent, you know what I'm saying, on that side of things, but then us blending our families, and then our parenting styles are different. Like I said, me going through what I went through, I'm passive and I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm trying to be nice to my kids. I'm trying to be a friend to my kids. I'm trying, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking at it totally different compared to him coming from a whole different parenting style. His parents were together until his mother passed, and he's a boy. So his daddy did boy things with them. You know, he outside. You know what I'm saying? So it's different. They woke up doing chores. I told him when I was a kid, we didn't do chores. To this day, my mom and daddy are alive. We never did chores. So, you know, when you get together in a relationship, your idea, your thought process is, oh, well, why you don't, you know, you would think like, well, oh, why you don't make your children do chores? It's like, I never did it as a kid, so I don't necessarily, you know what I'm saying? Like,
what you're saying. Yeah.
I can't put that into play because I don't even know what that looked like, because we didn't do chores at home. So it's like learning to mesh your parenting styles together to figure out what works best for you and your household. So I would say that would be the third one, is especially if you have a blended family and, you know, in a new relationship, the parenting styles.
I love that. When you talk about changing, because I know you said that your father had changed, things like that. I do believe if you do the work, it's hard work, but when you do the work, I do think anyone can change. Talk about where you feel like you are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in regards to your healing journey and where you are now. Were there ever moments when you felt like God had forsaken me, or maybe your faith wasn't as strong? Talk about where you're at now in those three areas: mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So spiritually, I'm up there. I'm at 100. Ain't nothing happening before God. Whether it's in my business, my personal life, with my man, my kids, whatever, God coming first at all times, because I know for a fact God is real. I have seen it. He has shown it to me. And when God know that you are serious about what you say you want, or
absolutely
words and power of manifestation, I believe in it wholeheartedly. And so he has shown up in my life when I have, you know, said certain things. God, get me out of this relationship, and I promise I ain't going back. Or God, you know what I'm saying? I've seen him work. So spiritually, my relationship with God has built tremendously, because I took the equation of church and all that right there. I took that equation. I used to go to church and all that good stuff and all that. I was raised in church, and I don't have nothing against nobody and all that. But I got to a point where, especially after COVID, probably too, right? Once I was in the house, I got to a point where I realized that my relationship with God was my relationship with God, and I ain't have to be in church. I ain't have to be giving you no tithes and offering and nothing else to determine if I was, a servant of his or not. So when I got to that point, it was only about me strengthening my relationship with him, not about proving to nobody else nothing at the church house. You know what I'm saying?
Hello.
Yeah. So once I started doing that, my relationship started becoming more, more and more one-on-one base with him, to the point where I talk to God like I talk to y'all, like for real. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking to him like he right here in my face, and I'm having a full-blown conversation. And sometimes I may cuss, but God, you know my heart, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like that's how I talk. So I feel like my relationship with my spiritual relationship, it flourished over into my business as well. You know what I'm saying? Because I walk and I stand on, walking by faith, because that's what I've been doing. I really, you know what I'm saying, have been living it, walking by faith and not by sight, allowing God to lead me and lead my path and my journey of where I've been going. And I'm following and I'm listening to him every step of the way. He the driver. I'm just in the passenger seat.
Hello.
So spiritually, that's where I'm at. Mentally, I'm definitely well surpassed where I was at, 5-10 years ago. I'm definitely surpassed that. My mindset is completely different. The way that I think about myself, the way I think about life, the way I think about relationships, the way I value relationships are very, very different. So even over the course of time with these past 5 years, I have built a bridge, I would say, and I said this last night too on the live. I've built a bridge that I feel at this point has become so long that if I was to put you on that bridge and allow you to cross it, you could. I can connect you to who I want you to be connected to. If I don't know something, I got somebody who do. I done built resources, you know what I'm saying? And I've added to that bridge, and that bridge has helped me mentally. I got people right now, if I call right now, and it has happened. I call right now and I can call them, and I'll give you an instance. I was going through some things, and I have a young lady, I call her my prayer warrior. And I call her, and she can hear it in my voice that something was wrong immediately. Mish, pull over off the road and let's pray. She gonna stop what she doing. You know what I'm saying? Let's love that. You know what I'm saying? Or relationships where if I don't know something, like for instance, one of my two of my dogs this year got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I don't know nothing about breast cancer. I'm not a breast cancer survivor. I have experience because my grandmother was a breast cancer survivor, but you, like I said, don't nobody know what you go through like the people who done been through it. So hold on. Y'all both is going through some things like right now. Let me connect y'all. So now y'all can be a support to each other. So I feel like I've built a bridge so long that it has mentally helped me to stay stable, because I have these resources, these friends, these like, I can really call on. Hell, look at me and you. I ain't have to see you in how long, but if you say,
that's true.
I want you to be on my podcast, what I told you. Oh, I'm there. Just give me the date.
Sure did.
Just still building the bridge. And it has helped me mentally. This helps me mentally. Being on a podcast, talking about my story, continually sharing my story. That helps me. You know what I'm saying? So mentally, I'm definitely there, and I'm in at a point where I can bring other people on too, and keep bringing and building and helping all of us mentally to continue to develop and grow. And then what was the other one say? That mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll probably be honest enough and say give myself a 7 or an 8. And the reason why I say that is because the capacity. See, the crown, you talk about the crown and say, God give you the crown and it's heavy, it get heavy. And I just got to be 100%, 110% honest.
Absolutely.
So it can get heavy sometimes. I deal with a lot of women. So you can only imagine dealing with different personalities, dealing with their journeys or where they at, because I got to meet them halfway in order to help them build to get to where they're trying to go at. So I'm taking on a lot and have a lot of responsibility too that God has, graciously, given me and put me in position to have, but it can take a toll. So sometimes I have to deplug. Sometimes I have to get on social media and maybe not be on for a couple of days. Hell, I just came back. I gotta deplug, and I gotta take some time to reset. You know what I'm saying? So emotionally, sometimes it can get draining, and so I, like I said, I had to go ahead. Hold on, let me back up, pray. You know what I'm saying, and get myself in order, because if my cup is empty, there's no way I'm gonna be able to help you fill yours.
Somebody else,
right? So emotionally, because of the work that I do and the load that I have, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, I'm a 10 all the time. No, I'm a bounce back and forth between a 7 and a 10.
and you give yourself grace. It's okay because you
Yeah.
don't have to get it right every time. I think it's amazing that your pain has become your purpose in a way. And you have taken life experiences, you have taken opportunities that God has given you, and you have multiplied it. It's kind of like that story in the Bible where God had given those different talents. So I gave,
Mhm.
the person one talent, blah, blah, blah. What did they do with those talents? And we saw for the ones who did something with the talent and then the one that did not. And I think the fact that you are doing something and you're benefiting people, and you're probably benefiting people that you don't even have no idea, I think that's amazing. And I think that the dedication that you have to your journey, while also juggling these other people's journey, is admirable in what you're doing. So, I said it earlier, I said it again, I definitely wish you all the success with Mesh Dollhouse. I look forward to seeing just how elevated I'm sure it's going to be and continue to be over the next few years. And then I wish you all the love and happiness in the new relationship. What did not, what, how did you not become jaded with love?
So initially, I was, because I was like, oh, I ain't never getting married again. I'm straight. Right. I'm done. These niggas ain't shit. I'm straight.
Right, hello.
But the crazy part was, like how I met my significant other now. The crazy part was I allowed myself to be open to what if. So I kept saying what I didn't want. And I figured as long as I can identify what I didn't want, that was all that mattered. Stop trying to figure out what you want. Because everybody like, oh, I want. So I figured out, forget about what you want. Just identify and know what you don't want. And then you'll be all right. So when I lined that up and I knew, okay, I don't want this kind of man. I don't want this. I want this. I want this. And then I started praying specifically. I want somebody who can be my friend. I want somebody who I can love emotionally. See, I know that I'm capable of loving somebody and somebody is capable of loving me. I'm a lovable person.
Absolutely.
But it was like, I need somebody who emotionally connect with me. So it was like, I started specifically asking for certain things when I was praying. So when I met my significant other now, everything happened organically. I started off as a model for Mesh Dollhouse, and he was a photographer. He wrote me on Instagram, hey, I'm looking to do some work. Would you like to work together? Everything was professional. Yeah, and let me see you my contract. Like, we were professional. We did our first photo shoot together. Did it cross my mind? Say, oh, damn, he handsome. But it wasn't nothing, saying nothing major. We never tried to hit on each other or nothing like that. It went from us working together to gradually, just on the phone talking, and then conversations started extending a little bit longer, like that. But we were still always friends.
Right.
And then, I ended up going on a date with somebody, and I was like, this nigga act like he was a fan. He was always taking pictures of me because that's when I was just coming into Mesh Dollhouse. Oh my God. And he was like, he had just came from his cousin's funeral. And I was like, man, you home? I'm gonna just come over there and chill with you for a little bit, because like I was really upset about this little damn date. So when I went over there, that night turned into 5 years later. Like we get on our 6-year anniversary this year. Turned into 5 years later. I went over there and we just had a good time. We talking all night long, and this is when we really got opportunity to hear more. Like he hear more of me, of my story, and just different. And we just gradually, we talked as far as like talking wise for about 6-7 months, and then one day he was like, ma'am, I'm trying to be with you, like, and we went from there. And so it was a definitely a process, but that was my friend, that was my homeboy, like that was my dog. And so for us to take it from that to a relationship, that's almost in a sense how we still communicate. It's like, that's my friend first. We always keep that in the forefront. You're my friend. I'm saying? You were my friend. So you never want to lose how we got
that
to
foundation.
But we always remember that, and
love that.
And it would thrive.
Right. I think that's dope to have that foundation, because when you have that foundation of friendship, I think a lot of times you can help move through situations that life may send your way. When the physical attraction, I'm mad at you today, or the, whatever fades, that friendship. And also can probably still allow for there to be some respect, because a lot of times when you have these arguments and different disagreements, you hit below the belt, or, the arguments can go left, that friendship probably helps to, kind of maintain some of that respect for each other, I'm sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's awesome. Give a word of encouragement to someone that is going through domestic violence, or maybe they have gotten out of the situation, but they're so lost and don't know what's in front of them.
I would say you have to, it's a necessity. You have to figure out a way to be by yourself for however long God say is needed. See, so we be so quick to want to rush back into relationships, friendships, situationships, whatever it is. And even what the boy call it, the entanglements. Even
Right,
though,
right.
because see, the thing is about it, like I said, intention. You bringing in all these different energies, all these different vibes, all these different people with their own problems. You know what I'm saying? You inviting this into your life. And if you don't take the time to heal, if you don't take the time to reflect, if you don't take the time to find out about self, some of us ain't never asked ourselves, what do you really want out of life? What do you like? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you want to do? You never take time to really just worry about what you wanted. I really
Absolutely.
think that it's necessary to take time for self, however long that may be. And when the timing is right, God is going to position whoever is needed in your life at that time, whether it's a man, whether it's a friend, or whatever. He's going to position right where it need to be at, because timing is everything. And when you're not ready and you always trying to jump the ship to get there quicker, 9 times out of 10, it's going to sink.
Hello.
So
Listen.
yeah, take time for self.
Listen, thank you. Thank you for this episode. Thank you for your story of vulnerability. I'm sure you're going to bless and help a lot of people. So I really appreciate that. I know you're already doing it with Mesh Dollhouse, and I'll keep saying it again. I wish you all the success with that and in the marriage. I just really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming to visit me on down to the QB zone.
Thank you. This was good. This was good vibe. This was good.
Absolutely. I look forward to working together and communicating some more. You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Well, that's it for the zone today. We are officially shutting it down. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, remember this. Get into the habit of asking yourself honestly, does this support the life I'm trying to create? If not, release it.